right, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. We can all rise for the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's meeting. Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from July 26th. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Yeah.
Are there any corrections or amendments? If not, looking for the motion to approve such minutes.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I wasn't here, so I thought I was
All
thinking
right, minutes are approved as written.
it looked good enough.
So we had a cancellation this evening, so we are going to move up 141 Independence Lane. Sir, if you can introduce your party, a quick overview of your project, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'll let Kim introduce our party.
Yeah, okay. Oh, these both are down. Usually they're down.
All right, I'm Kim Bosnott from Mutual Associates, and with Andy Miller from 101 and Tennis Lane Associates, or Catalyst Commercial Development is the parent company. We are here before you tonight for the 141 Independence Lane project. We were before you, I believe, not the last planning commission before. We had a pretty lengthy review letter. We resubmitted addressing the comments and received a pared down review letter here before you from Gilmore Associates. Not a lot has changed from development of the plan. We're still at the same 88,250 square foot building. Some things that we added were we withdrew our waiver request for sidewalk, and we added the sidewalk to connect to the existing sidewalk on the northern portion of Independence Lane.
All right.
And this is actually within the right of way, so we won't need to acquire additional right of way for that. There's also programs and crossings associated with it. Another revision that you might have seen come in mid last week was one of the loading docks was actually is now shown as a driving ramp. That was a client revision. So we previously had 16 loading docks. Now we have 15, and then they'll put in a drive up door here so that they can access the building. That was a request from the client and how they propose using this space in the future. So big picture overview, those were the two main revisions that we had. Obviously, there was technical comments that we addressed through our review. One other thing that occurred Friday of last week, we had the property owner had a landscaper come out and clear the basin. That there's two existing basins on site. There's the northern basin, which generally is pretty dry. We were able to clear that out with minimal effort. There was the southern basin, which actually has standing water in it, and we've been looking at this site for quite a long time. And going back from aerials, there always seems to be standing water in there. Of course, we decided to schedule it the day after torrential downpours. So there was a lot of pumping that occurred, but we were able to get some pretty good information from both a site inspection and also a survey point of view. As noted in the review letter, there were some structures that we couldn't access because of the deep water previously. Friday afternoon, we were able to dig those out and get some survey on that. So we're processing that data and looking at what we need to do to make this a functioning basin. So that was a good field day that we had. It was a lot of work with the water that was in that basin, but it's one step closer to what we need to do to address that comment.
Okay.
Let me interrupt a second. So there's about a page and a half of technical comments related to stormwater management. It's all related to them doing what Tim just mentioned about figuring out what's going on. Their existing basins, they're both are actually on the property, right?
Here's split.
majority.
Yeah, it's split
Extra.
down the center, so half of it, the southern basin, half of it is
Yeah,
actually
so-
on the neighboring property owner and half of it's on ours. Site, and then a little bit more is on our property on the northern basin.
So they're at, we've asked them to clean that up, to, improve it, and they've agreed to do that. That took a little longer on their end, so, instead of waiting for all that to happen, they went ahead and resubmitted, we did a review, so there's a good page and a half of technical comments, all related to stormwater, believe me, say you wouldn't apply to all those.
Yeah, it's with that rate.
I
pretty
just
much
we just didn't want to
everything.
drag the process out just because they're trying to get in and get sort of the information for the basin, so.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out.
And on the basins, I just note, so we're obviously the north and the southern basin, we're gonna be modifying through our land
Mhm,
development.
mhm.
But in the interim of that, we're working with the property owner and with Janine and Craig, just to make sure that for some reason, let's say we don't eventually purchase the property, that the current landowner has the basin functioning, the outlet structures in good order, that it's just kind of brought back up to more into compliance, I'll say, from a maintenance standpoint moving forward.
Gotcha.
So our plan is to actually bring it out the next spring or summer, most likely. So we just want to make sure it's functioning as long as possible.
I mean, to me, it pretty much looks like everything will comply. So,
Yeah.
is there any issues that we
I
should be
just want to
aware
point
of?
out just for the record that they did receive their variances. I'm not sure if you received them before you were here last or not. You were here.
Oh, yeah. we
Yes.
looked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So they had 3 variances, they received those. There's a couple, zoning comments. One is just a fee in lieu of what they've already submitted for that, for the, woodlands disturbance are permitted to go to up to the maximum. And then pay a fee, they've agreed to do
I
that.
saw that. Yeah.
I assume based on your review letter, everything else is a will comply.
Yep.
And then the waivers are listed, or start on page 2 and wrap up on page 3. They're all in there from the last review, and we discussed some of these before. We support all those waivers, and I don't have any other comments. They've been great to work with. I know they're not in a hurry like other developers, but I think we did the right thing here and slow down a little bit. And they're asking for a preliminary final. I have no objection to that. In fact, you've seen this twice now. We've done several reviews. We're comfortable with what's left to be done. You don't have anybody ready to move in yet, right? Or you wouldn't build right away.
We have one on the hook.
On the hook, okay,
Yeah.
so,
But with weather, obviously, we're
Yeah.
still under NPDS. We should get admin complete this week on that one, which means we'll go into technical review. So we still have a little bit to go with that one. That's our longer lead item, but by the time we get that, it's gonna be the end of the construction season. They're not gonna get ours.
Right.
the only comment is the fire marshal did a review. You complied with all that,
Yeah.
so there was a review letter issued 9/14 by the fire marshal. Everything's well complied with those items.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you've already addressed them, so that's all I have. It's ready for you.
I don't have any further questions. The board? Any further questions?
No, thank you.
No? Good. If there's any, open to the public? All right, in this case, then, looking for, approving preliminary final, moving this decision forward to the board. All in favor? Motion, please.
Motion to, I forget.
Do you want to grab it?
Yeah, go ahead.
You so choose, planning commission could recommend preliminary final for 141 Independence Lane, subject to compliance with the September 21st, 2022 Gilmore Associates review letter, in which there are 7 waivers that are supported in our letter and will be granted, recommended to be granted by the board of supervisors eventually. Compliance with the 9/14/2022 fire marshal review. And then just incorporate their response letter where they indicate they will comply with all items. The 2 associates review letter or response letter dated August 19th, 2022. Is one of the motion.
Motion to approve that.
All right, do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Next is 545 West Butler Avenue. This is a sketch plan. As you guys know, on a sketch plan, we do not make any decisions. We do not make any recommendations. We just
Listen, then listen.
gonna listen. Sir, if you can introduce yourself, your party and project. please.
My name is David Chaplin, attorney, with the plan Scott Mill, or our zoning planner. Michael from our development group, again, from here, in case there's any technical questions. As you had mentioned, we're here tonight on a piece of property on the corner of County Line Road in Butler Ave, which I know is a very important piece of property to the municipality. Even though it's small in stature, it has, it's a gateway piece to New Britain Township. What we're here tonight is exactly what you said, Mr. Chairman, is just to get input, get feedback, get ideas. We have our kind of established vision or a vision of what the property should be, but we're really talking about it from a use perspective only. We're not here to present any fixed ideas in terms of architectural design, building placement, building design, site design, ingress, egress, circulation, all those types of things. We're here for some feedback. What we are proposing is a 2,500 square foot building where the structure that's there today is maybe a little bit bigger, maybe around 3,000 square feet, maybe a little bit bigger. As you know, is the old Wawa convenience store. The proposal right now is to take it down and rebuild. So that gives us a brand new slate to do something hopefully nice architectural. The uses that are being proposed is a mixed use of Dunkin' and Papa John's Pizza. As everybody probably knows, is what do you mean a Dunkin' Donuts? There's one across the street,
Yeah,
right? That's the same guy. So he wants to move here, and there's no drive-through across the street at the gas station. We want to try to establish a drive-through here. The split between the two uses proposed right now, like I said, this is just background from our preliminary take, is two 1,200 so square foot structures or uses. The part that's interesting is Dunkin' Donuts, as you guys probably know, is mostly a morning-driven business. The bulk of the use and the customers come between about 6 and 9:30, and then it's pretty quiet the rest of the day. Dunkin', this isn't supposed to be 24 hours. Dunkin's don't even have enough employees anymore to do that, let alone that's really not about what their use is. On the flip side, the Papa John's is more of a lunch and dinner situation. But most of it with both of these uses is going to be either the drive-through or takeout or delivery. So what we would see for the Dunkin', for example, is really seating is really going to be proposed. It's going to be mostly drive-through or mostly come in and take out, no stay. The Papa John's is about 90% takeout and delivery. There's no place to sit. It's not a sit-down restaurant. It's really just come in, pick up your pizza, or they'll have it delivered either through their own delivery system or everybody knows uses DoorDash, Grubhub, and those things. I feel like our family lives on that stuff. But like I said, having said that, a couple things to think about. The underlying use may not be the most glamorous for a site, but we want to see what we can do about making the site look glamorous, so to speak. And I mean that kind of tongue in cheek. But there's an opportunity to do things with the site that wouldn't be the typical Dunkin' / Papa John's, if you guys might say, oh my gosh, look terrible. Second thing is that those underlying uses are permitted in the district and the overlay. The one thing that we were thinking about in developing the site is knowing the nature of the uses, knowing how they're compatible, is just that we don't think we need that much parking. And the ordinance requires somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or 30 parking spaces, 50 parking spaces for 2,500 square foot, because it's labeled a restaurant. We believe we can probably do this site with about 12 to 15, but we have a couple ideas that show 18 to 24 parking spots. What I probably failed to mention is Dunkin' today is experiencing somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% use the drive-through, 25% come in. Dunkin' has even gone as far as redesigning the whole interior of their structures to be geared towards drive-through only. Where it's more of the way they have, there's whole science to it. And I sat through a 2-hour seminar to listen to it. And the lady who developed it was the same lady who developed it for McDonald's. Dunkin' had hired, and They're really going more towards a drive-through oriented. Get as many as 120 to 150 cars an hour in and out of their store. And they have the way they do that internally and the steps that people take, it's just interesting, but probably way too boring for you. So some of the other things we're thinking about, we did have a staff meeting with Craig and Township Solicitor, the manager, and some other folks to get some ideas about how to potentially proceed, knowing it's a high profile property. We know that there's, that we would be overly flexible to landscaping ideas. There was ideas floated about the Welcome to New Britain sign on the corner. There's sidewalks, whatever interconnectivity. I think Craig was telling us there may even be a Toll Brothers development that's coming in, a couple of properties adjacent.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe that's a bad thing to mention. But nevertheless, so we're just here. The two pictures that Scott had prepared, one is more of the kind of zeroing in on the site and just what we proposed, which I think hopefully you guys received plans that kind of depict this. The other one was more of the global picture, of what's going on in the whole quarter. From the Wawa, the people behind us, the shooting gallery, the Target
World.
world next to us. Just to kind of maybe give because you guys know what else is going on. Maybe that might help us develop this site in conjunction with however the rest of the area should go. So I'm going to leave it at that. Probably said too much already. I don't know, Scott, you want to add any more details about more the zoning or the use category?
You pretty well covered everything. One thing I'll add is existing out there today, the site's about 74% impervious. This plan here in front of you, which has 11 parking spaces out front, reduces it down to 73% impervious. And then we took another look at it, as David mentioned, not needing all that parking and reducing the front parking here from 11 to 7. We're able to offer more green area, and it reduces it to 70% impervious. And it also allows for more landscaping, maybe doing something a little more embellishment with some monument sign or entry kind of gateway sign in New Britain Township.
Do you guys know what variances you need? No, you need is one parking.
Right.
Any other ones you've identified?
That was the only one we've identified at this point. I know, and as David mentioned, this property is in the Butler Avenue Overlay District. And there are area dimensional requirements listed in that, one of which are the setbacks requiring 50 feet from arterial roads, and both County Line and Butler are arterial. So technically we need 50 feet from either. We have more than 50 along Butler, but along County Line Road, we're at 45. So that is in your saldo.
How many
Typically,
parking spots is required?
50.
50, and you're going down to,
so the one plan proposes 23. This plan here with the reduced in the front is at 19.
Yeah.
But based on our clients' needs and the shared use nature of the Papa John's and the Dunkin' Donuts, where you've got, kind of two uses overlapping and there are peaks at different times. Their thought based on their experience was 12 to 15 spaces was really all that's needed
With a drive-through, correct?
with the drive-through.
I think one of my concerns is knowing what used to exist there and how it functioned. It was a total nightmare.
It was.
I
I used to
bet.
go there.
It was a total nightmare. And they had, I don't know how many parking spots.
24.
They had 24, and there were cars actually waiting to get parked at Wawa. Now you're adding another business to it. So there's two businesses taking over for one business, and we're cutting back parking spots. And that corner is it's a mess. It's a mess. And
So-
that's one of my concerns is.
And it's probably the most important is just the parking, the circulation. One thing that might be interesting to think about, because when you guys are in the area, and one of the other things I kind of wanted to mention is just in working through this process and hopefully making it somewhat collaborative, is we want to spend as much time with you guys getting this plan right before we even present anything to the board of supervisors. But nevertheless, if you think about the existing Dunkin' or next time you might be there, there's not a lot of parking out front there, and that has no drive-through, and it's a convenience store. And it's a full service Dunkin' the same way this will be, it has all the same product, offers all the same stuff. And people have to get out of the car and go in. Granted, you may have a few people parking in the at the pumps. But as Mike was telling me earlier, that they really have had very little use for parking. When you're dealing with a site like this that has 75% of its users using the drive-through, I think we at 15 or at 24, it's too much. It's wasted impervious. We know we don't need it. We know our studies will show that we don't need it. And I think what we're trying to do is that because our peak at Dunkin' will be over with the drive-through by the 9:30, 10 o'clock time point, Papa John's is just opening right around then. And that would be the more of the issue that I would worry about, Mr. Chairman, is when they're coming in to pick up pizzas, that kind of thing. Are we gonna get that kind of? And I think we'd be happy to provide whatever information and studies on that kind of stuff, where we have how much of it is delivery, how much of it people come in, what that generates in a parking demand for us, or for this type of use. But I think tonight we were just looking for the feedback, and then.
Well, how much of the business is Papa John's gonna be versus Dunkin' Donuts?
The
Is it
building will be
1/3,
split.
2/3, or half and half?
There'll be half and half, like just in size. Square footage. But at its peak, the Dunkin' Donuts maybe needs 3 or 4 employees, and at Papa John's at its peak only needs like 2.
So,
But their peaks are different.
So that's 5 spots right there.
Right, so we have 5, and we purposely set up 5 on the right side for employee parking. So we would leave somewhere between 14 and 20, depending on what makes sense for the businesses. Anyway, so we were trying to think through some of those questions, because I remember because I used to live in off of Bristol Pike, off of Bristol Road.
Mhm.
And my office used to be in the train station in the borough. So I used to come here all the time, and it was a very difficult site. It wasn't, but that was what this was. It was constant at lunch and dinner. And I remember the way people used to leave the site, the dart out, cross both sides of traffic to get going the other way. And those are the types of
That's
things.
the question I have. Can you explain your traffic flow? and what
Yeah, I
you
give a
propose?
brief. So the 2 ingress and egress points here.
So you're gonna have people coming out onto Butler.
Yes, but I think the way we were looking to design this is have people coming out to Butler, making the right out. I think the only, and then people coming, what direction? East on Butler, be able to come into the site. The drive-through stacking starts right there. This shows 11 cars. There's probably room for 13, but it shows 11 cars in a double stack arrangement. The way Dunkin' does it today, there is no drive-through for Papa John's. And figured it out.
okay, that was my next question.
Yeah. But there is it's only for Dunkin'. And the way they do it is this can either be 2 kiosks, or they have a kiosk and a mobile order on it. So through some of their analytics, is if you order something on the app, there's something in the stop bars that when you come in, they know that you're here and they have your order ready. Or it could just be 2 kiosks. I think we're showing 2 menu boards for this. So one of the things so people would circulate through the site, and we would try to push them out here once they're leaving the drive-through onto the county line.
Yeah, but that's
That's
no guarantee.
impossible, though.
But, well, if people want to leave and go, I guess what it'll be east on county line or.
It'll
west
be
on county
north,
line?
north. North.
They got the north arrow. Go on county line. And of course, I'm gonna have to have my traffic engineer really develop this better than I could explain, so. Give me a little leeway.
And
The
one of the
traffic
things
flow is a major concern. It's a high accident rate area, although it has dropped slightly since the old law.
Which we hope could happen.
Yeah, my concern is there's no easy way to head back towards Chalfont. Like you'd have to turn left on the
You have
County
to go
Line
straight out,
Road.
come
and-
right here, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a,
See, and unfortunately, what made it worse, and by no fault of yours, is we added a light at the existing Wawa.
Yeah, we know.
And now traffic backs up when the light is red. The lights are not timed correctly, and it's an impossible task to have. But now you're having traffic that's just backing up towards Target World more than they used to in the past because of that light. And
And going Both ways?
Yeah, going both ways, yeah. So we just added, more disruption to 202, in my opinion, by adding that light. A couple businesses that have a hard time, people, like there's a flower shop there, and it's just basically what I'm trying to say, it's more crowded, if anything, than it used to be. On top of, it used to be a mess to get in and out, and I'm kind of concerned that we're creating the same thing.
Yeah.
And
And that's where I need that, and that might be, Mr. Chairman, like the perfect kind of input we need. So maybe phase next step is this understanding all that, which I knew would have to be an issue, is we retain a traffic guy who can talk about the best movements, what would be, because these are both PennDOT roads, right? So PennDOT's going to ultimately tell us what our movement abilities are going to be with the township, or with the township's input. So that may be something we have to look at next in terms of what are the trip counts, what are the trip generation, how many, I know as the Duncan in the peak, which is the biggest concern, is gonna be the morning rush, right? We generally don't add new trips to the road. We generally rely on existing trips. I saw a few of these that I've done recently, somewhere between 10 and 12 new trips in the AM peak, somewhere between 15 and 20 trips in the PM peak, that people would come just out to come to our site. Otherwise, we're capturing everybody else. It's already on the road network. The question would be is how do we circulate them through the site with the least amount of input, if that's ultimately what happens, and that would be a diagram. Or anybody with more information on that than me, so
yeah.
that would be my.
And then the second concern is the parking, because if they see 15 cars in the drive-through, they're gonna stop and park and go inside and get their coffee. I mean, people are not that lazy. They're not gonna wait
Oh, I hope.
20 minutes. They're gonna park and go inside and get their coffee. So I don't know if there's gonna be enough adequate parking space between the two businesses. It's
I think we could prove to you that there would be, but I understand the question, because you're right. And it's funny because I have another site that we're doing in Skip Back, which is on the corner of 113 and 73, which is as busy or probably, crazier than this. Another small site, small Dunkin' drive-through only. And the issue is circulating, making sure it's circulating. So we actually turned that one into, and my client won't tell me to give me that authority today, but that one is you can't even walk in, just pure drive-through.
Is there a franchise design that they have to maintain, like a wall western elevation that they have to follow?
Yeah, well, and
With adding Papa John's now to it, how is that gonna work?
that's gonna work the way you guys want it to work. So we have flexibility on both sides in terms of the architectural elevations of what it will look like.
So there's no franchise guideline of
There's
what
just
you need,
colors.
just
and
colors.
like that. There is not a standard. Your building has to look like this, your building has to look like that, because then the two of them together will look silly, right? So, and I know, and I don't mean to say that this was a good idea, but when I look at the little strip center that's down by the TD Bank and the brick and I thought it would be uniform in whatever it might be, or whatever input you guys would have, it would be uniform in its design. You know what I mean? And it would be what we like to say, Scott and I are used to this because we've been doing it for so long, Bucks County in its design, whether it's using the stone, using the brick, using, that kind of look that everybody wants to see.
Which matches the Bucks County law bollard. Right.
I mean,
Is that the next one? Was that-
it's the entranceway, to Bucks County and our township, so it's an important property. I mean, at least to me it is.
What I was talking to my client about, and I don't know if I'm overstepping with this kind of thought process, but I've only been there like once or twice, but I was struck in what I do with Hilton Head, South Carolina, where they have all these uses, but it is one of the most gorgeous places you've ever drive around, just because of the way they designed it.
Right.
With the architecture, with the landscaping, with the signage, with the monument signs, nothing, all that kind of stuff that I think there's a way to kind of bring to this site, even though it's small, even though still generate a lot of traffic and those concerns, which we'd be happy to look more in depth with you. We just wanted to, we think there's a lot of flexibility in what we can do, both architecturally, visually, work through circulation, because, it is going to be about what are the best movements that's going to create the least amount of aggravation. What is PennDOT going to tell us are going to be the best movements for the least amount of aggravation? We definitely don't want to, and if there's some participation maybe in retiming the lights because we're here and we're adding more,
No, don't.
Don't go there.
Don't go there.
I appreciate it.
The lights on 202 are supposed to be timed on the new 202 bypass, and that's, no, I'm sure architecturally you guys will do a beautiful job. That's not our concern. I think my concern from watching this parcel for many, many years is I think we're creating even a bigger problem than we had before. And again, that's strictly my opinion. And the lack of parking is, I think, is gonna add to it, of everything being stagnated on that property.
Well, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with the board, obviously, is, maybe continue our conversation, maybe come back in October with more of that information, both. I mean, if you trust me architecturally, great, but I won't mind bringing some stuff or some ideas. And then, getting a traffic guy engaged, talk about what it's gonna generate, so we can look at it through, and Craig, or if the town, Craig, do you guys do traffic for the township? Yeah, get, some of the basic information to see if it makes sense to Craig, and then start having that conversation about what all that looks like. And if we reach a point, that that it'll work. If not, we can talk about other things.
I mean, what do you guys think? Again, this is,
Because you're scheduled to be on the work session meeting for the board on Monday.
I know, I'm wondering if it makes sense to.
Well,
push it.
I'm a little quiet tonight because I don't know where to tell you to go. And normally I don't have a problem speaking. I've gotten feedback.
You want.
I got feedback from a lot of people. They don't like it. And I'm being straight up with you.
Mhm.
Marco mentioned some of it. I've heard the same thing. It has to be both entrances right in, right out, concrete, like no way, striping's not gonna work. And I'm sure your traffic guy is gonna say, yeah, PennDOT probably will ask for that anyway. But the parking reduction is too much. They won't grant a waiver of the setback 50 feet. Tolls going through it. They had to go from 60 units down to 40. So they've already asked, and the answer was no. I don't know which to go through first, but you need to get some input from the board. You'll probably hear something similar. But maybe you need to go to the board and get some feedback, and then go figure out if you want to go forward. And then my next step would be I don't say this usually, go to the zoning hearing board. If you don't get relief for parking, you're done. If you don't get a variance for parking, this is all moot.
I know, but
And I usually don't want to do that because I don't want you to go and then there's more things that come up. But that's such a crucial point that if you don't get relief for parking, you can't lay it out this way.
Right.
But I feel the project.
But I don't want to walk down into a firing squad knowing that it's intended to kill the project because we're not going to get the relief, where the idea is my client owns the piece. So they're going to be in control of what is going to occur there. The question is going to be, if I can show that it'll work, I don't know, if planning commission.
There's more than plan commission controls ZHP.
No, I understand.
You don't know that answer till you get there, and I know the setback was an issue, and toll is still. How many times have we seen the toll project? By right, and Mr. Fox keeps going back. We'll get to by right. They're having trouble because they're not getting any relief from the overlay district. All those requirements, they're not going to. I mean, I've been through it with a couple of projects now. There's 50% open space area, green gathering area. You might be able to meet that, but the setbacks, the impervious actually is helping a lot with the existing impervious. I agree with you. Maybe you need to engage a traffic engineer, but at the same time, until I know what PennDOT is going to recommend, that's the other thing. We can all say what we want, but PennDOT has complete control at the end.
Of all those things, I know.
I mean, it's no exaggeration. When you go past the new Wawa, there's at least 7-8 cars waiting to get on 202, on the old business 202. And thank God there's a light there, because if not, it would be a traffic nightmare. And again, that's a big concern, is adding to that.
I think you need to, unless you have more data to back things up. I think that's where you're going.
Yeah.
Traffic
I just
study.
wanted to give an
I
idea.
think we
what
should
to
submit to
think about.
PennDOT to ask their input.
We don't mind doing a scoping
You can get at
meeting.
least input on the entrances. Maybe just say, no, you gotta do it this way. Then okay, that's what I gotta deal with. If it aligns with the board, planning commission, then we're done. And then get some feedback and then go to the zoning hearing board. But I mean, I think you have to spend more money than normal on a job like this. But it's come down to traffic, parking layout. the stacking, I mean, the one down in I guess New Brittonboro, the other Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
It's a shop.
The old Wells Fargo Bank, yeah.
I mean, it's out on 202.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it, and that's what everybody keeps telling me, and I'm like, I don't have any say in that, that's.
It's not your fault.
That's not my fault.
It's actually my fault, because it's my board that approved it.
So, you know, but that's not, doesn't bode well when you come in. You got, at least you have. double
They only
stack.
have like a 6 or 8 push.
But I see the one in Montgomeryville though, the Dunkin' Donuts. And it's packed. It's pretty busy.
Yeah.
It's pretty busy.
No, and it's interesting because it's a science now, you know what I mean? And I guess maybe I'm talking, Greg, with a little more confidence over knowing that it's over park, knowing that the stacking could work, but I need to prove it. I need to.
I don't even think you need it.
It's not a question of proving it. It's
Yeah.
just a question that, if it's feasible to be there, it's.
Because if it doesn't work, then you get a variance, and the next, this is what we have happen all the time with the warehouse, you get these variances, and then we have a couple now in the industrial park where they need more parking, now they're coming back to add more parking, you get another one where they want less parking, they want the variance, so.
Yeah, we can tie it to the particular kind of thing, so. Yeah, so I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. I mean, I wanted, and I appreciate the honesty about it because we went in with eyes wide open, understanding that, it's a couple of things. It's a tough site. Because I remember what it was like, and I don't know how many times I had to slam on my brakes with someone I'm trying to make the left, and people were coming out of that Wawa. Which is exactly what we don't want there. We understand it's a visibility site too, and we want to, like Greg is saying, make the investment into what needs to be done so it's done correctly if it can be done at all. So, I think from that perspective, we wanted to be here to make that commitment to you guys to talk about it.
Yeah.
You would think a 0.6 acres, the site like that can create so much problems, but we want to try to.
And plus, like Greg said, getting the relief too. It's that's something I think you should know up front.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be granted or not.
Could I ask you a question? So you said the Papa John's is not going to be drive-through.
No, not driving.
Do you think it would be more, I feel like it'd be more convincing if you were to make it a drive-through, because then you could legitimize the the minimal amount of parking.
I've never heard of a pizza drive-through before.
Me neither, but they
Me
can be the
neither.
first.
Come to pick up only.
Yeah.
But it's like somebody,
No, that would.
Do you have any statistics on, you say 90% is takeout or delivery?
I'll let Mr. Mike answer that question.
Because I'm over by the Papa John's in Doylestown, and I never see anybody there.
Just like it does no business.
Delivery person's in and out, but that's it.
What is your experience?
Yeah,
Well, introduce yourself.
my name's Mike. I work for the Robert, the owners of this building. And so, yeah, it is 90%. For Papa John's, it's definitely 90% or higher, especially with Grubhub and these things. That helps add to it too. Dunkin's the same way. I mean, with the pandemic, everybody basically switched to that. You said the one in Montgomeryville, you're talking about the 1 by 5 points?
Mhm.
So yeah, we own that one as well. It's
That's pretty busy.
it is. I totally agree with you, but the building is totally different.
Right.
It was an old Starbucks, I'm sure you know. It's, and so if you do something you can notice about that is there's nobody parking. Everything's in the drive-through. So, I mean, the only people parking are usually my people, just my employees.
Right.
We don't really have, or, maybe a Grubhub or DoorDash driver pulling in and
Yeah.
grabbing their stuff.
I got you. I mean, it's we're not necessarily saying, we're just expressing our concern of what we
totally-
see at that intersection.
I've
And
Almost got
that's-
in an accident there before, so with people making the
and
left.
somebody said it was a zone for accidents. I don't remember who said that, but you said that. Yeah.
That's a major.
But there was always fender benders there.
I mean, the biggest issue is people making the left. Right?
Yes.
I mean,
Not that
so-
the site.
So,
Correct.
I mean, we had the same issue when we opened in Quakertown. They put delineators in the middle of the road. No left-hand turn lane.
I mean, making a left going towards Doylestown and making a left coming into Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
That's
So
so yeah. So
you're
people.
saying making a left
Yep.
hand. So if you put you know, this is.
There's a turn lane there going left on the county line from.
Could you make a left coming out of the Wawa onto 202?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It was like,
You could, but
you could, but it was always in,
I never did.
Yeah, no, I never did. either.
I just
thought
went
you
out
could.
the other way.
because you have to cross two lanes.
Right.
If you make a left out of the old
Like-
Wawa, you
like
have to cross two lanes.
Coming really. And I believe there's a turning lane, between the gas station, the lanes of traffic
Turns the other way though,
on the other way.
Yeah.
It's going left
correct?
up county line to the east. So it's gonna be difficult. You're gonna have cars. The left-hand turns are coming and the people coming, towards Doylestown, trying to make a left into it.
There's three lanes, right, that intersection.
Correct.
There's two that go the opposite direction.
Right.
And then there's one that you can go straight or make a right at the end. And people try to cross two lanes to get in.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're crossing from here and going up. And,
Same thing on the way in.
right,
I think,
Yeah.
I think, Mike, you were saying one of the discussions we were having is to eliminate those movements altogether, because I think with the light at Butler and County Line, we could bring people into the County Line entrance, circulate around the site, into the drive-through, and then back out. And still get the people that want to get to that, into the store in without making the left in, and then when you come out, make the left out, right? Those are the two movements.
And same thing when you finish your drive-through, you go onto County Line Road. If you want to make a left, you're crossing three lanes.
Well, there's actually two lanes
yeah.
going.
Two lanes
towards
going west.
Omar.
But I get it, people do it. I think the only way to
Yeah.
fix that is to literally put. They have plastic delineators that go in the road that simply,
Yeah.
Right.
separate you from the others.
So make everybody go through the Wawa.
They definitely couldn't run over them without damaging their own car, but
Yeah, it's like I said, there's a lot to solve there, just because of the location.
All traffic must turn right and then direct them through the Wawa parking lot out to the light.
Shouldn't be happy about that.
That's somehow, but,
If you're coming out of county line, if it's a right in, right out, that would be how you would do it. You move up and around. I'm not sure.
So I mean, I think we expressed our concern this evening. Again, this is just a sketch plan.
Yeah.
We're gonna be nodding our heads this way or this way. It's like, don't want to be a bobblehead, but you guys have any other questions or?
No.
But I think that's everybody's concern is
Mhm.
just the traffic and the parking.
I
Let the
mean,
township know, if you can, next couple of days. We're having a meeting tomorrow to set the agenda, so you're on there now. So once you know.
What, I don't want to put you on the spot, right, because would it be smarter to have more of that information to come before we went to the board too?
You're gonna have the same dialogue. and
Just telling them to say, okay, come back with more information anyway. The only thing is,
If you wanna come and present it, I mean, it's a work session, so it's 10 o'clock, so.
yeah, I
It's
don't
on the
think
agenda, so you're not gonna get a lot of time and we're not gonna do this.
it'll be quicker,
Quicker and you're gonna get.
probably go down and dirty.
Partial, well, probably, from what I've been told. So,
Yeah, my only problem is I have to be in trial in Camden on Monday, so it's not that it matters to
To
me
me,
either.
I think you need to go to PennDOT first.
I think it might be smart to have us go for you.
You guys don't, we're not usually involved. You guys do it, come up with it, get feedback from what they recommend and then come back to the board. The first meeting of every month is basically
Is a work session.
So get the first meeting in November
Yeah.
and.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, so you can hire a traffic engineer to do some analysis of the site, because hiring a traffic engineer to do a full-on study. It's already been designed. It was part of the bypass.
Yeah.
That's why the timing doesn't work on 202, because it's all set up for the bypass and County Line Road. It's all tied together. So really, a traffic engineer should look at more at site circulation and recommendations and movements and with PennDOT, and then bring that to the board and see what they think. And that may be in.
That makes most.
For the rest of it, there's no one here that's gonna make that decision. Even the board's not gonna make that decision as far as, I think their decision would be, no thanks, but I think you need all that information, then get some feedback from the board, then goes on your board and see what happens.
Yeah, see if you, get the waivers.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
I'm glad it ended up being a quick night. I thought you guys would be here for a while.
Yeah, make it.
I almost.
All right, take care. Nice meeting you. All right, public comments? No public comments. Do you have any comments, the board? Everything's good?
I do have a question.
The one project that pulled off.
Mhm.
Yes, Monfield
You
Road,
guys
Monfield
know-
Pike.
Yep.
We actually read our letter.
I did.
They have a zoning issue with 4 apartments and the other one, not the other one, the other existing building.
Mhm.
They have issues with water and sewer.
Mhm.
So now I did hear from the developer, he emailed me privately saying he actually bought the property.
Mhm.
uh, Jim D'Angelo. So he actually bought it.
Great.
He said, I'm too far in.
Yeah.
Someone's leading him astray and you got to figure out if this will work. And maybe convert an existing building to, give the family.
That was a little goofy there. They have a shared driveway with the neighbor and, yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, so.
I had my list of
you might not
questions.
see them For a while, but that's the reason they pulled off.
Good. All right, adjournment?
Just a quick
Yep.
question.
Mhm.
So that same intersection where the old Wawa is.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, everything at that intersection is kind of the same, lots of people in, lots of people out, no good way to make a left. So I mean, what would work there? Do you know what I mean?
That's what I was.
That's
I've been
my
trying-
question.
That's what I do when I'm sitting here trying to say like, and I actually been. Like, look at some other intersections and see what does work, because something's gonna go there. Sooner or
Right.
someone will come in with by right, they only need 1 variance, so if they eliminate the variance. then
They can
someone
do
wants to
it.
Push,
Yeah.
legally, harder time, but you're gonna make them, that's why the Saldo has other requirements, and right away, they're assuming they're gonna get relief from setback. Then
Not from the overlay.
yeah, you just created it, so they were 5 feet away from complying, no judge is gonna rule in their favor that you can't comply with 5 more feet, so.
Mhm.
It's a small site, I'm glad you guys do what you did, I think that's the most feedback we've done in a while, as far as just, if you don't like it, you don't like it, it's why I think sketch plans are great. Sometimes you don't have to have a technical reason, I try to provide all that for you guys, but it sometimes just doesn't fit, I can just see that drive through backing up on the.
That was my fear, that it'd be
And
like
we're all
the
gonna get
Britain
the
one.
calls, especially me and Ryan and Janine and the manager saying, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. And then the board's gonna be blamed.
Excuse me.
Doesn't work, and it's popular, building or use, but there's a couple hours in the morning where it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a great parcel. It's the entrance of our township and Bucks County. I would love to see, a business go there, but at the same
But
time,
what?
you're creating.
Take the
What
existing
do you
building
think would-
and just convert it. So, Michelle, to answer your question, it may be something where it's not a big end user. People want that corner, but it's not a big property, but maybe someone just converts that. I mean. Yeah. It depends who the owner is, so we can find something we like. It depends if the owner.
I know, but
Let's,
So you just keep saying no, and it sits there until, to be honest with you, plenty of gas stations on the corners that are vacant for years. I don't think anybody has to rush, and that's why I was a little tough. I mean,
I mean, I use almost all of the businesses at that intersection and I did use Wawa, but I know if I'm going in this way, I'm going out that way. I'm not even gonna try to come out this way. I'm gonna go out there,
yeah.
turn around if I have to, or somehow get where I'm going, but I'm not making a left anywhere out of CVS, the gas station.
Look at where you make.
Wawa.
Is there something that was a benefit? We didn't really see any improvement. What they're.
Well, I think,
Business that isn't gonna have a lot of traffic in there.
right,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I'm thinking, but I think a lot of people, what he was saying, and he's probably right. Is, you're driving towards Montgomery County on Butler. You wanna stop and get a cup of coffee, you go in and then you go back out the same way. It's not like you're going back the other way a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So same thing with the other entrance. And don't forget, County Line is probably gonna get even more popular since they're expanding it down, further down,
Mhm.
you know?
All right, let's make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.